Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, and welcome to my stream. As always, I'm your host, yours truly, Handuriel, or Spook. It depends on who the person is. It's really hard to act like a VTuber when you don't have a model. Anyways, tonight we playing some good games. And with that I mean Katawa Shoujo. Continuing the visual novel on its path. But before we start, how are your evenings all going? My day's been quite fine actually. Not doing anything weird. Not too busy. Not too bored. So, yeah. Ow, tea's still hot. But yeah, doing quite fine. But anyways, I think there's not a lot to just ramble on about, so let's just hop right into the game. Ooh. For a few seconds you can see a lovely sink. There we go, that's better. Load. A brief history of time. Oh my god, not immediately. Hey Chan! Go away. Hey Chan! Leave me alone. Come on, Ichan. Let me sleep. After 2 nights of not being able to sleep at all, the last thing I want to be is to be woken when I finally manage to. It may be the last period of class with a textbook as my pillow, but I'll take whatever sleep I can get by this point. Say, Hichan, even Shichan wants you to get up. I don't care what Shizune wants. Leave me alone. Jeez, Hichan. I'll just have to wake. Wait, Misha's going to. You? This is bad. You don't have to. I can feel my face flowering into a scarlet red blush. The students still in the class are sitting bolt upright and staring at the shouting fool who was sleeping just moments before. Damn it. I let my head smack back down on the table with a noticeable thud. Misha's trademark uncontrolled laughter reverberates throughout the classroom. As I turn my mournful eyes to the bespectacled Shizune beside her, she carefully adjusts her glasses, desperately trying to maintain a look of serious disapproval. Narrowing my eyes, I can see a badly hidden grin spreading across her face. To Shizune. Shizune looks away quickly as she crosses her arms tightly, barely on the edge of her control. Misha's laughter doubles in volume as she glances at Shizune. All I can do is drag my hand down my face in resignation. You too. Was the one who slept in class, Ichan. Yeah, was me. Boss Shichan having a fit trying to wake you up, weren't you? Was having a fit. I move my eyes back to the standoffish Shizune, who is, with a single huff of confirmation, returns to looking away with her arms crossed. Why was Shizune trying to wake me up? Hichan wanted to give you the handouts. The substitute teacher gave out while Hichan was sleeping. Handouts? I suddenly find 2 sheets of paper thrust down in front of my face. Following the hand holding them, I see the still pouting figure looking down at me with a distinct scowl. I guess I really am in the wrong here. Sorry about that. No dice. Her irritated face still holds. I clasp my hands together and flick my head downwards in apology. I'm very, very sorry. She huffs and simply drops the papers on my desk. Damn. I look over to my hands to see Shizune and Misha signing frantically to each other, a look of frustration on Shizune's face. It looks less of a dialogue and more of a tirade, punctuated with sidelong glances at me. To say it's unsettling, it's another understatement. The two suddenly stop signing and look at me in unison, both having exactly the same look of disapproval. In one fluid motion, Misha's hand suddenly extends high above me and comes rocketing down. Before I can even hope to react, my head is sent bouncing up and down like a jack-in-the-box. I quickly bring my hands to my head, more out of reflex than actual pain. Ah, what was that for? I open my eyes to see the two grinning at each other, while exchanging an enthusiastic thumbs up. Shichan says she forgives you now, Hichan. Could you forgive me with a little less force next time? I look at the two with a blank face. Misha and Shizune. One, Hisao, nil. Hisao, nil. Oh, Shichan also says you should check on your student mail more often. She produces a bright yellow envelope and hands it over with an exuberant grin. Strange, who could have written me a letter? Now is not the time, and most definitely not the place to find out, though. Giving up on the nap so cruelly stolen from me, I rub my forehead and slowly get up, putting the sheets and envelope in my bag before swinging it over my shoulder. I take a step back and move to depart with a small bow, while Misha clutches her side laughing and Shizune nods back in a curt farewell. I join the flow of students exiting the open door and turn the corner into the hallway, only to end up face to face with Hanako. Oh, hey, Hanako. Good afternoon, Hisao. Silence falls between us as bustly, chatting students pass us by. She's fidgeting constantly, her eyes drawn to her rather unremarkable footwear. I take the bridge of my nose in my fingers while I blink my eyes heavily in an attempt to make things seem clearer. I'm barely staying awake as it is. Hanako, you want to say something? What is it? I wanted to give you this. She holds out a small rectangular piece of paper. I blink again to make out the text through barely open eyes, slowly starting to make out what's written there. 2 eggs, 1 bread loaf, whole grain cereal 1 times, and thyme. A shopping list? I look upwards, raising an eyebrow. Oh, I usually go shopping with Lily, but I can't come, so... You want me to run errands for you? It's okay if you don't want to, I just thought maybe... She's panicking. I sigh. Yet another battle lost. Though this time by a weakly fought surrender. I smile tiredly and rest my hand on her head to calm her down. It's fine, I'm just going anyway. Just this stuff on this list? She nods, then bows deeply twice, as if to make her gratitude perfectly clear. We were going to meet outside the school gates at 6. Thank you. I was going to get it, but I need to study for the test tomorrow. A test? Oh yeah, that's right, science. How are you doing with it? She brightens ever so slightly. I've been spending more time on it than before. I think I can do okay. Well, good work then. She too starts smiling, and much more earnestly than I had that. I have full confidence that I can do fine in it without any extra studying. But the fact that she's putting in the efforts instead of just reading in the library is heartening. I'll grab your stuff and take it to your dorm in the evening. See ya! With a small wave, we part ways. I'll go do my homework before meeting Lily. I should be able to take care of it in time. Wrangling with a particularly complicated math problem has caused me to be a little bit late for my meeting with Lily. Only a couple of minutes, but enough to make me step smartly out into the courtyard to the school gate. I make a right turn and start my way towards the small town below, leaving a few students turning the other way to the bus station. I slip my right hand into my pocket as I walk in the orange sunlight of the dusk. Thankfully, the sweltering sun heat's starting to die down, making way for a pleasant, cool breeze. When I stretch my hands high above my head, a familiar figure takes form, cane in her right hand. Ah, Lily! She stops and turns around, swiveling her head ever so slightly, trying to work out exactly where the voice came from. Hey, it's me! I quickly catch up to her, coming in beside her and matching her slow pace as we resume walking. Good afternoon, Hisao. Hi there. I glance up to the sky. A distant tinge of orange discolors... Oh, damn. A distant tinge of orange colors discolors the clouds, washing the footpath in its light. Long shadows from the trees fall across the wide road down the hill. So, Hisao, what brings you here? Just going to town to grab some groceries Hanako sent me. Hanako sent you? Yeah, she needed to study for the test tomorrow. I was going to come down anyway, so I'll just buy her the stuff as well. Unspoken is that Lily really could use some help to get food, but that's an obvious fact that neither of us needs to state. It's good to hear that she's studying for it. I thought the same thing when she asked me to come with you. We continue walking down the street, the familiar sound of her cane echoing through the air as we go. Except for the occasional passing car and the leaves whispering in the branches, there's a blissful silence. Thank God I can finally relax for the first time today. I glance over at Lily. That porcelain face of hers never seems to lack that air of relaxed confidence. I guess the same could be said of her personality too. A shy, she silently walks. She silently walks, her face remaining pointed to the street ahead of her. I look ahead and savor the cool, blowing air over my face. This is probably the calmest moment I've had since the about face my life took so recently. To have it while walking to get some groceries, what a weird life. I feel the crumpled up note rubbed against my hand in my pocket and pull it out to check its contents. Let's see here. Eggs, bread, cereal, thyme, lettuce, shaved ham. That sounds like quite a bit to carry back along with you on your own. Yeah, just how much does this girl eat anyway? My mind suddenly clicks that, yes, there actually is a person beside me. Wait, I mean... She laughs wholeheartedly. My, Isa. Her giggles punctuate her words, though she's making little effort to suppress them. Quite direct today, aren't we? Yeah, you got me there. Still, it's quite a bit. Usually I go shopping with Hanako, so I know what she buys. It's the same thing every week. Huh? Is she a good cook? She gets a nervous giggle. It's usually me who ends up cooking. I used to do so for Akira, so it's no problem doing it for Hanako as well. You can cook, but a short hum with a little with an amused lilt emanates from beside me. I wonder if the fact that she seems amused by my comments is so often is actually genuine, or rather just a form to make me feel more comfortable in addressing her blindness. There are ways around it. Some meals are more difficult to cook than others because of being unable to see what I'm doing. But it usually only takes a little more time. Fingers can double as very useful measurement tools, for example, especially when cooking rice. It makes sense, but she'd have to be plenty careful not to hurt herself. I wonder how many times that happened, given that it sounds like she's cooked alone for possibly years while Akira worked and her parents were gone. With that, the conversation trails off. Compared to the awkward silence of Hanako, Lily seems genuinely content to say what she thinks and stay quiet when there's nothing to say. The slick road under my feet is bathed in an orange glow, the occasional fallen leaf crunching underfoot as we walk. I let out a deep yawn, my lack of sleep coming back to haunt me. Did you not get much sleep last night? I couldn't sleep at all last 2 nights. Probably insomnia. Lily's face suddenly becomes worried. It feels like personal failure every time she gets worried about my well-being, even if it's genuinely nice to know someone cares. You have insomnia? Aren't you going to see the nurse about that? Nah, no real need. It's happened before a few times. My meds screw with my sleeping occasionally. Ah, I'm sorry. Oh, come on, it's not your fault. At least I shouldn't have any trouble getting sleep tonight. You do worry me sometimes. I worry you? I reach around and scratch the back of my neck. I kind of want to address this. Hey, Lily. Hmm? I don't mean to sound weird, but please try to forget about my heart condition. She looks kind of lost. I hardly blame her. I guess what I'm trying to get at is just don't treat me differently because of it. She bows her head slightly. her white cheeks reddening almost imperceptibly. It's only natural to worry about those around you. Well, it's still nice to know there's someone like that out there. It may be somewhat embarrassing to say, but but it's the truth. Lily takes a breath to regain her composure and manages a gentle smile, though her cheeks remain flushed. The final downhill walk to the store passes in silence. Ira, welcome. I suppose I'll get my stuff first, and Hanakon's on the second round. I grab two well-worn red baskets from the stack beside me. Besides the entrance, and pass one to Lily. Just as she did before, she lays it on the ground and slides her retracted cane between the basket handles before picking it back up with her right hand. When she takes hold of my arm on her own, I'm surprised at just how fast this kind of casual contact became so natural. Mostly due to the necessity, no doubt. Shall we? Sure. While we navigated around the store, the odd person occasionally passing us pays us no heed at all. It's nice compared to the stares and whispers around the city. As we reach the aisle, I quickly check with Lily what she needs and grab it along with what I want, putting our items into their respective baskets. It's an odd feeling to be dependent on so much. Something so basic as shopping. Hanako would be practically a necessity for her to pick out what she wants after all. Right, I'm pretty much done with both my stuff and Hanako's. You need anything else, Lily? No, this should be everything. Off we go then. Oddly, there's a queue. There's a queue a mile long, considering the store is only large enough to warrant one counter. Seems like it'll take a while. Damn. Lily gives an inquisitive look. Damn. Lily gives an inquisitive look, unable to see the reason for my complaint. The queue's really long. Looks like we'll have to wait. Oh. Okay. How strange. Sharing the same mood of resignation, we reluctantly take our place at the end of the line. One person finishes, the line moves up. Another person finishes, the line moves up. By the time we finally reach the head of the line, I'm so close to dozing off that Lily has to gently pat me on the back for me to move up. Isao! Isao! I'm sorry. She gives a short sigh of concentration as I move up. Consternation. Getting the groceries for Hanako and me put into separate bags. Thank you. Come again. By the time we emerge from the store, Lily is holding a single bag while I struggle to carry four, both hands well and truly full. It's a lot of work, but thankfully the items in them are light. Even without looking skyward, it's obvious that a surprising amount of time has passed, the road outside being dark and lit by street lamps. Once Lily retrieves her cane, we set out back to the dormitories. The way we came, leaving the welcoming, warm glow of the store. Despite the road being empty full of cars, the full bags abundantly makes up for the lack of noise, constantly clunking and squeaking together. My, Isao. It's good to find that you're eating well. I'm a grown guy after all. I need to eat all I can. Must be nice being a man. What? Seemingly not noticing or ignoring my surprise of the completely out of the left field comment, she continues without missing a beat. Oh wait, doesn't really bother you when eating? Most of the time. I get what you mean. Women tend to worry about stuff like that more than we do, I guess. Exactly. It makes me somewhat envious, to be honest. Well, it's not like we can outright ignore it. With an affirmative nod, we continue on our walk. Huh? Huh? That's right. What is it? Hanako mentioned your birthday was earlier this year. Do anything special for it? She gives a long pause, lost in thought for a few seconds as she recalls the event. But not really. It was just Hanako and me having a little party during the night after school. Your birthday is supposed to be a big event, you know. Sounds like a pretty lonely way to spend your birthday. Just her and Hanako staying overnight. Birthdays always felt like a family occasion for me. They were time spent in spite of their full-time jobs. Both my parents would make an effort to be there for the day, or at least a party beforehand. It reminds me of how Lilly mentioned she hasn't seen her family in a long time, and even ended up moving from Akira's house afterwards. But I guess it's the same in situations as mundane as these. Considering her inability to read the packaging, just getting groceries would be a pain without somebody else around. In the end, she just has Hanako and me, and Akira when she's off from work. Be that as it may, she still seems to have many more distant friends among the students, not to mention people like Yuko. It seems to be her own choice that there's such a separation between those who are close to her and those who she occasionally socializes with. It humbles me a little to see how much Lilly seems to have her life set up and going just as she wants. Yet Hanako is there for her to celebrate her birthday, and I'm here helping her with shopping. It's kind of a weird symbiosis, I suppose. Are you alright, Isao? Sorry. You seem to go very quiet, that's all. Sorry, was just thinking. Oh? And now I've piqued her curiosity. It feels kind of overly personal to talk about, though. And tell the truth. The truth is always good. It was just kind of... I was thinking about how you seem to have everything so sorted out, even with Hanako relying on you. I can admit that even I kind of relied on you when I first transferred in. I think it's a good quality to have. I turned to Lilly, surveying her reaction. She's forcing herself to look forward and furrowing her brow quite a bit. Her face looks a bit awkward, as if she was trying to find just the right words. Lilly? I would thank you, but assuming that I don't rely on the presence of others is too much. You'd be wrong to think that Hanako simply depends on me with nothing in return. She seems to have a bit of trouble saying it, even though it's largely what I thought already. If she tried so hard to maintain her independence as anyone who would have had to in her position, sighted or not, maybe she finds it hard to talk about her own needs. It's only now that I realize an omission in what she says, though. I decide to follow it up, largely in jest, to avoid things getting too personal. Oh? And what about me? She suddenly runs ahead of me and turns, blocking me off. With a smile, she holds her hands behind her, and as she leans forward, "You're different." And with that, she turns back and continues to walk ahead of me, a newfound spring in her step. All I can do is raise an eyebrow and give a dazed grin. I don't think I've ever seen this playful teasing side of her before. So I'm different. It's hard to work out what exactly the context, but knowing her, this ambiguity was intended. Our relationship has been changing, at the very least simply because I've begun to stand on my own 2 feet more and started getting more curious about the situation of those around me. As to why, probably a mix of personal curiosity and a want to try and work out how to deal with my situation. I'm less sure of Lily, though. That's why her own statement, so similar to my own feelings towards her, throws me off so much. Watching her make her way up the street, cane tapping from left to right, I decide to settle the matter later, and just smile. This is a nice side of her, and I don't want to forget it. Eventually, we get to the girls' dormitories. Both in my both my arms aching from the weight of the 2 sets of groceries. Ugh, we're finally here. Oh. I bend down to wipe my forehead with the back of my hand. Lily stops in front of her door and sets her down her own bag, fishing around in her pocket for the key. Thank you, Isao. I really appreciate the help. It's nothing. It might be nothing to you, but it's definitely something to me. And with that, she steps in through a door, closing it behind her. I blink. Those were nothing but honest thanks, but I can't help feeling something different about them. Ah. Anyway, I have something else to do before I can mull on that at my leisure. I turn back to the door to Hanako's room and proceed to knock twice in quick succession, the bag still in my hand rustling together. After a couple of seconds, the door slowly opens. If one weren't looking closely, they could be forgiven for thinking it hadn't moved at all. I twist my head to the door to try and peer through the tiny sliver of the gap between the door and the door frame. Hey, Aniko, I got your stuff. Ah! With that, she opens the door completely, making her plain room visible over her shoulders. Sparsely decorated, it's probably even more unremarkable than my room. I hold out my right arm. Both bags almost pulling it straight back down with their weight. Thank you, Isao. I'm sorry to make you carry them all this way. It's fine, don't worry. Just don't make me do it every day, okay? I pass the bags to her as I give a light-hearted chuckle. After the initial transfer of weight, she manages to take them easily. Well, I'll be off then. Night-night, Aniko. Good night. See you in class tomorrow. With a deep bow, her groceries still held in both hands, she steps back and shuts the door. Making my way back to my own dorm, I put one bag into my other hand to balance them out. Even as I do, I can't get Lily's light-hearted smile out of my mind. When I'd first met her, it would have been nearly impossible to imagine her like that. Indeed, it feels like we've become closer in the past few weeks since I first got to know both her and Hanako. The time I spend with her each day, the small exchanges of happiness we share, those small moments of joy as I get closer to her. I'm far from certain, but I I don't think these are just the normal feelings of friendship. Once I return to my room, I store away my groceries and begin getting ready for the night. I swapped the books out of my bag for those I'll need tomorrow, pulling out the yellow envelope Misha gave me earlier in the process. I got so sidetracked by one thing after another that I couldn't deal with it earlier. Who could have written me? I wonder. The name neatly adorning the back of the envelope freezes me in my tracks. It's been so long since I've seen her writing. There's little chance I could have identified it as hers otherwise. Ivanako. Why could she, should she? Why should she have written me? I can't think of any good reason for her to do this. I almost don't open the letter, but there's a little point to that. If I just left it alone, its mere existence would gnaw at me until I did something about it. I looked down at the piece of paper on my desk. Its bright summery decoration beamed happily at me. The lettering is pink, jarring badly with the yellow sunflower border on the card. The handwriting is neat. The characters having been written thoughtfully with an unusual amount of care. I barely given the letter a second thought when it was given to me, but now I can't get its contents out of my mind. While I'd like to say that I don't know why she used such an old-fashioned method of communication, considering a phone call or an email would have been much faster and easier, the answer feels obvious enough given the context. The letter leaves a comfortable distance between the sender and the recipient. Unlike a phone, it isn't required that you engage in conversation, and unlike an email, there's less expectation of an immediate reply. Statements such as the third year seem to be very anxious about their final exams, and it's so weird to think we're already seniors, isn't it? Are just small talk. Small talk that could have been achieved by simply replying to any message I'd sent to her while I'll send her while in the hospital. The ending, though, is the true reason she sent me this. The last couple of lines added almost as an afterthought. I wonder if we'll ever meet again. Perhaps it's for the best that if we don't. It's a statement that should hurt. I've always heard breakups are nasty stuff, but it feels like this is simply a reaffirmation of what we both already knew instead. It's the preceding text, no more than a small talk, that makes me feel most uneasy. I can't figure out why, no matter how long I sit there and look down at this bright, summery piece of paper. If you would like to correspond uh, with me, by all means write me back. It's plainly obvious that this is not the type of letter to be replied to. In the end, letter is no more than a simple uh, addiction abdiction of responsibility. A final statement to reassure herself that the relationship is over. As such, I find I have little problem with scrumming the letter and the envelope into a ball and tossing it into the waste bin, ridding myself of its existence. I go to bed with mixed feelings, cheated out of a pleasant evening by this intruder from the past. Ironically, it takes a while before I can manage to sleep. Bum, bum, bum. Next day music is also so ominous. I sweat profusely, awaiting the dreaded moment. Each tick of the clock tenses my muscles, and that's much more. Every minute making more hair stand on end. It's coming for me. I can feel it. Death. Death in the form of a single sheet of paper. I take a small pile of papers from the student in front of me and pass it backwards, after plucking off the top piece. Looking to the top right of the page, I find my fears realized with a small red circle. 43! Ugh! I hang my head in resignation, cursing under my breath. I can feel the aura of a similar sentiment rising from the entire class. It's strange, but that fact lifts my mood by a minuscule amount. Misery loves company, I suppose. As the teacher opens her mouth, the room braces for the inevitable onslaught, only to be saved at the last minute. We quickly move to collect our bags and leave for the lunch post haste, but the teacher delivers a parting broadside.
We'll be discussing these test scores next lesson. Needless to say, there will be quite some discussion to be had.
A collective groan resounds from the class, now reduced to shuffling out dejectedly. I push the sheets into my bag as I walk along the hallway, crumpling it in the process. It's enough that such a troublesome letter ended up on my desk yesterday, and now this? I hate English.
He, sir, oh!
A stern female voice gruffly calls out from behind me. I freeze on the spot, my face becoming like stone. It's as if I can feel my brain disconnecting from my body. My eyes slowly shift to the right, and I catch a glimpse of the disembodied voice. Nothing. My face begins to slip as time passes, and I decide to risk turning my head ever so slowly. I twist it to the... Ugh! I jump straight into the air and drop my bag, yelling out in surprise. As I recover and regain my composure to turn and see, I should have known. Emmy!
Gotcha, Isao!
Oh. She stands there with a mischievous grin on her face, hands forward and fingers pointed inwards. She was the one who jabbed my ribs with her fingers. I looked down at her with a grimace, rubbing my hair in frustration. That's no way to greet someone, you know.
You have no sense of humor.
I left my sense of humor in my English class. Complained to the teacher if you want it given back to me. She pulls her best puppy dog eyes on me as she pouts. Lily's managed to build up my resistance to the tactic, but Emmy's sort of stature adds enough to the effect to make me relent. So how are things? Haven't seen you around in a while.
Same old, same old. Run so fast, nobody wants to join me in the morning runs. It's a real pain.
Her modesty never fails to amuse me.
Although...
Uh-oh.
You know what I'm thinking, don't you, Isao?
Wearing my emotions on my sleeve is one of my worst habits. She's seen right through me. Fortunately, I see somebody else approaching us that will give me an out. Fortunately. Oh, hi Anako. I give her a welcoming wave and try my best at looking like I haven't noticed Emmy's pouting face. She gives a small wave back.
Hello, Isao. Emmy. Hi, Anako.
I'll join you and Lilly in a sec. Actually, speaking of lunchtime company, it's odd that I don't see you without Rin, Emmy.
Rin!
Without a second word, she forgets all about us and bolts off to the hallway. She must have forgotten she was waiting for her. Hanako and I stand speechless, only able to helplessly stand and watch as this ball of seemingly boundless energy dashes off.
Oh, yeah, he's out.
She suddenly stops herself just before vanishing around the corner on the rooftop staircase, spinning around to meet our bemused faces.
I hate English too.
And with that, she disappears. All I can do is hang my head and give a long sigh, thoroughly left in the dust. As I hear a short giggle coming from behind me, I turn to see Hanako smiling at the corner my attacker rounded. I pick up my dropped bag from the floor and quickly dust it off. Afternoon, been busy. Afternoon, been busy.
You don't like English?
Oh, nah. I had a test on it a while back, and Emmy caught me brooding about the results.
Ah, sorry.
She averts her gaze, guilt written onto her face. A casual observer would think she just accidentally reminded me of a dead relative. Ah, come on, it's not your fault. How are you doing? How are you doing it? She looks up, though still avoids meeting my eyes.
All right, I suppose.
An awkward silence passes, and they seem all too common around Hanako.
Oh, Lilly asked me if you'd like to join us for lunch on the roof.
I guess I don't exactly have any pressing engagements to attend to. Sure, I'll be right up.
I'll go get my lunch from the cafeteria now then.
Go on, you don't need my approval to leave, you know.
Okay, I'll be going then.
She gives a skittish reply, a small nod, and quickly makes off towards the cafeteria. I guess she must have forgotten to bring lunch today. As I walk through the hallways, more and more students start to come out of the classroom and pass me, going in the same direction as Hanako went. By the time I manage to make it to the stairs, having to push my way past a buzzily chatting throng of students, I finally manage to get past the last of the crowd and round the staircase, slumping slightly in relief and slowing my pace before I open the door to the roof. Damn. Momentarily avert my eyes, all but blinded by the harsh summer sun. As I slowly regain my vision, the surroundings finally take form. Lilly and Rin sit together on the rooftop. The top of the hilltop forest around Yaoku visible past the fence around them, as if to frame the view.
Isao!
Lilly and Rin give a quick nod in acknowledgement, and a deep nod of greeting, respectively. I start walking towards the rather mismatched trio, and can't help marveling at the speed with which Emmy devours the rest of her half-eaten banana. Hey, it's strange to see you three here together like this. It seems to have been quite a day of coincidences. Emmy and Rin decided to eat on the roof just as Hanako and I decided to.
You stole it. The spot was ours.
Simmer down, you can't steal a place in school. I plunked myself down beside Lilly. The four of us creating a semicircle. I think she's right. At two? The butterfly is her accomplice. the butter? I glance around. Sure enough, a small yellow butterfly floats across my field of vision. So tell me, how did this butterfly help Lily steal this spot? It scouted out our conversation and told her. I should have known better than to expect sound reasoning from Rin. Regardless, I guess it wouldn't hurt to play along. So you're telling me she can talk to butterflies? There are people who can talk to horses, called horse whisperers. This Lily must be a butterfly whisperer. Bury my head in my hands as Emmy rounds on her strange companion. She doesn't seem to share Rin's sense of humor.
Whisperers don't work like that.
Emmy and Rin continue their banter as I turn to Lily, who busily finishing off her small box of curry and rice. So what brought you up here anyway?
A little fresh air every now and then doesn't hurt. Ah!
Emmy breaks off from her vain attempts to introduce the concept of logic to Rin.
And that was why we came up here too.
Something tells me it was her idea alone, and that Rin only got dragged up here on Emmy's whim. Then again, the same could probably be said for Lily and Hanako.
No, we can share.
The creaking of the door to the roof can be heard as soon as she says the words. A moment of silence falls over us as everyone's attention focuses on the figure appearing from it. Hanako slowly walks over to us, her eyes pinned on the ground, silently ruining the attention she's attracting. She tenses, just barely, when her eyes meet Rin's. I can't help raising an eyebrow as she walks over to us and sits next to me, doing her utmost to avoid looking up even as she brings her cafeteria bread to her mouth. So, how do you and Emmy know each other anyways?
Emmy's somewhat well known around the school for her athletic ability. She's the fastest member in the track and field club by some margin, even beating Miki Miura at the track meet last week.
Miki Miura? Ah, the tan girl from the front of my class. Considering her height and toned body, being able to beat her is quite an accomplishment. Looking over to Emmy, it's very clear that she's well aware of this fact. She beams proudly.
So he's how? What was your score in English? Ouch!
No comment.
Boo!
She puffs her cheeks and pouts, but it doesn't take long for her to bounce back.
All right, I'll tell you mine if you have to tell me yours. Deal? Deal?
Fine.
Okay, on the count of 3, we both say our results. 1, 2, 3. 32.
I beam a mischievous grin.
Ah, evil!
You said it, not me. Still, the fact that you managed an even lower score than me is kind of amazing.
Huh.
She looks and sounds like a small terrier growling at an intruder. I can't say it's the most threatening sight I've ever seen.
By the way, scoring higher than 32 isn't something to boast about, much less scoring below it. For any subject.
Yes, Lily.
Sorry, Lily. I could help you with your English if you'd like. It would be a pleasure to... No, that's fine, but I appreciate the thought, really.
Lily looks slightly deflated, her hopes of imparting her knowledge dashed. Judging from her badly hidden laughter at the rest of us, neither she nor Emmy seem to have garnered too much pity.
As I sit happily laughing through, I feel a voice suddenly cut me off as my chest clenches. I sit in silence for a few seconds, all the while my concentration forced on my heartbeat. It's only a small pain, but the ache feels like it's growing. Breathe deeply. Breathe deeply. I glance upwards to try and keep at least some of my attention on the surroundings, to see Emmy suddenly freeze as she noticed the expression of pain on my face, out of the corner of her eye. Hey, so, are you okay? Yeah. I'm fine. I'm fine. I look back down and redouble my efforts to try and stay calm, clenching my fist and trying to dull the pain. It takes a short time, but the pain thankfully begins to fade. When I look back up, there's only silence and pensive faces to be seen. I guess I'd better explain myself. Arrhythmia. I'm fine. It's just a heart flutter. Are you sure? Should we get a nurse? Taking her cue, Hanako quickly picks herself up and begins to dash towards the door. Hanako, stop, please. Lily, I'm fine. You look like a wet, wrinkled tomato. Huh? As I bring my hand to my forehead, I can feel the beads of sweat gathered on it and dab them off with my cuff. Thanks. I told you I'm fine. Just kind of fragile, I guess. The entire atmosphere changed from one gaiety to downcast faces. Oh. The situation being too awkward for anyone to know exactly how to react. And of course, the whole thing is thanks to me. It just had to happen now, around others. Oh, Emmy? She looks up a box of juice halfway into her mouth. I haven't told you my score yet, have I? Yeah, well, you're half four, and so your score doesn't count anyway. Lifting an eyebrow, I inquisitively turned to Lilly. What was your test result anyway? She gives a cheeky grin. 100%. Perfect score. No way. All I can do is hang my mouth open in wonder. Considering those tests are insane, even for some native speakers, I can only imagine she's gone and done something like committing to mind part of the dictionary. A gift for rote memorization, maybe. That's... See? Only someone part foreign could get a score that good. See? Lily and I grin at Emmy's expense, a reaction identical to mine when I'd first tripped on that little landmine. Lily's foreign ancestry does raise a point, though. That's right. You leave tomorrow for Scotland, don't you? That's correct. Emmy heard some rumors about it. It seems word's gone spreading quickly. Considering I only told a friend in my class a couple of days ago. Must be so nice to go halfway around the world, on a holiday. Hey, could you buy me something while you're there? Don't be too shy now. Lily gives a light-hearted giggle, evidently fully expecting Emmy's bluntness. The rest of her lunch continues much of the lunch continues much the same as before. The jauntiness from before my heart flutter thankfully returning in full. As everyone flies off with the appropriate farewells, only Lily and I are left. Hey, Lily. She packs the last of her things into her bag and clips it shut before perking up her head slightly. Thanks for breaking the silence back there. I kind of wanted to stop it, but I didn't really know how to. As much as I'd like to sound less morose about it, the letter from yesterday screwing up the test so badly and now my heart making things very hard indeed.
She gives an indulgent smile and nods. I hope she hasn't picked up on it, but knowing her, it's unlikely that she hasn't.
Emmy's strong, but only human. We do worry about you, Hisao.
Hold on. Why would I worry about you? Why would I worry you? Her smiling face collapses, becoming uncomfortably serious.
Hisao, we are not ignorant of your situation. Unlike...
She suddenly cuts herself short, unsure of whether she should say what she intends to. I give a weak smile and rest my hand on her shoulder. Don't. It's enough that I worry about it. I don't want you all to shoulder my burden.
But...
If y'all worry about it, I have to worry about your worrying, if that makes sense.
I'm fine, okay?
For a moment she looks to be lost in thought, carefully pondering how to react.
Hisao, do you have any paper left from the food packaging?
I think so. I'll just check. I rummage around in my bag for leftovers from the lunch, eventually finding a paper square from my sandwich package. My eyebrow raised at my expression, rather quizzically. I gently place the square into Lily's hand without another without another word. She brings her fingers around it to feel its edges.
This should be large enough.
With both of us seated on the roof, the minutes of to the lesson ticking away, she proceeds to lay the item on the ground and begin her work in earnest. Wrapped in silence, I watch her fingers move about on the small square with amazing dexterity. A small fold here, a larger fold there, her fingertips keeping a slow but sure pace. Looking up, her expression is calm and placid. The fact her face is pointed well above the sheet in front of her makes the sight of her work all the more curious. Her shoulders slump a bit after finishing one final fold. Her work apparently done. It's only when she holds the item up in her hand that I realize what it is. A small origami crane. Light brown thanks to the packaging used. The result looks quite delicate and precise. You can do origami? I taught myself how to when I was younger. It improved my dexterity a bit. Uh-huh. A little baffled, I carefully take the small bird from her pale-cupped hands as if it would break from the slightest of breath. It seems to be folded quite well and holds its shape easily. We both grab our bags and head out the door, Lily extending her cane as she does so. I hold Lily's handiwork up to my face for further inspection while we walk down the hallway, her hand running along the silver handrails for orientation. If she taught herself origami to improve her dexterity, with the use of her hands meaning so much to her given her condition. Ah, so that's it. I smile as I realize the bird's meaning. Everyone here has had to find their own ways of dealing with their conditions. You aren't alone when you have problems. Thanks, Lily. I appreciate this. She gives a sweet smile and a nod, not using words where none need to be used. In her typical manner.
All I ask is that you take care of yourself, Isao.
Don't worry, I will.
Promise?
Promise. And with that, we part ways. To be honest, I don't know what annoys me more. The fact that I could die at any moment, or the fact that everyone knows that. I guess I'll take each day as it comes, as the unexpected present in my hand reminds me I'm not alone here. Even though I may be like this, I'm not.
even though I may be like this, I am not alone. If they worry, if anyone worries, I'll smile. I'll smile enough for all their worries to go away. Bum 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 bum. The moment the bell rings, a collective sigh of relief comes from everyone. Much, much of the morning has been taken up by a droning lecture on stoichiometry, stoichiometry, a topic entirely unbefitting of the insufferable heat permeating the classroom. Knowing that attempting to teach anything more would be an exercise in futility, Mithal gives up and begins clearing the teaching materials from his desk for the day. As meaningless banter starts filling her classroom, I notice Hanako getting up and coming to my desk. She's been a lot less withdrawn lately, something which gives me a small measure of satisfaction. Hello, Isao. Hey, want to go pick up Lilly then? It's close to the time when she'd meet up to get going if she's going to make the flight. About that. She said she might be held up a bit by her classmates. I suppose that makes sense. Her class usually gets off a little earlier than ours, so Lily would normally have just come to our classroom. Her class must be sending her off. Well, never mind, we can wait outside her classroom for once, right? She gives a small giggle before nodding. The two of us taking our things and leaving for 3-2's classroom. When we reach our destination, I stop in idle amusement at the scene inside. One of the shorter girls in the class has Lily wrapped in an enthusiastic hug, her head no higher than Lily's chin. Her other friends, of which there are several, are gathered around her as well. Lily simply smiles kindly and hugs her back. I guess Lily must be pretty popular. Compared to the Shizune's harsh but fair dictatorship of 3-3, Lily seems more like a mother figure for 3-2, to say nothing of her height and looks. Kenji's pointedly cool demeanor as he packs up his things at his seat in the back corner of the classroom is expected. He's no doubt far from a fan of the fuss being made about Lily's leaving. Looking beside me and seeing Hanako following my gaze, I decide to finally enter the room. Afternoon, Lily. It's just me and Hanako. Hanako withers noticeably when exposed to the din being made around Lily. Try as she might, I doubt she'll ever completely get over her social anxiety. Hello. Lily manages to work out her position reasonably well. Her classmate detaching herself without a second word. A look of slight exasperation is written on Lily's face, though I can't say I blame her. Oh, hello Isao, Hanako. Do we have much time before the flight leaves? I give a quick glance at my watch. Taking the trip to the airport into account, there's a good 10, maybe 15 minutes left, while still allowing for contingencies. Yeah, we still have a few minutes to kill. I wouldn't worry about missing it yet. Ah, it's Hanako! Uh-oh, I think we've just inadvertently become entangled in Lily's social web. The girl is probably part of the legally blind faction in a class like Kenji, given her almost window pane-like spectacles. Her short, roughly cut hair gives her a look that fits an excitable expression. Hello. She takes Hanako's hand and pulls it up and down enthusiastically. I really don't get how girls can be so social to someone they know as a friend of a friend. While Hanako exchanges nervous greetings, I look around the room for my short and overdressed next-door neighbor. Try as I might, he seems to have slipped out of the classroom without anyone noticing. For a moment I try to think of the possible career paths that could reasonably benefit from his single skill before putting my mind to more pertinent matters. Lilly seems pleased, if somewhat guarded, about the enthusiasm Hanako suddenly excited from those around her. She might not see it, but Hanako is much less panicked about the affair than I'd anticipated. Shuffling my way through the gaggle of classmates, I eventually managed to reach her. Don't worry, Hanako's fine. Thank you. I thought she might be overwhelmed by them. Don't worry. We'll be gentle. Both of us grimace in unison. Hanako's nervous grin stays plastered on her face as another couple of girls moves to meet her. It's kind of amazing that even just a month ago she'd never have been able to cope with the situation as this. Even when I first met her, the two of us completely alone, she sprinted from the library. So, got everything you need? It's all packed. I just have to get back to my room to pick it up on the way, and Hanako and I need to change. I guess we'd better get going then, Hanako? Hanako's head flicks up towards us in a flash, her face rather unmistakably appreciating the change to extricate herself from the small group gathered around her. Coming! Coming! The long taxi ride to the airport is surprisingly pleasant, despite the three of us being rather squashed together to fit the small back seat. On the other hand, maybe despite isn't the right word. Lilly pays the fare to the driver as we file out, Hanako's eyes flittering left and right. Thankfully, there aren't too many people around, most of them being inside the main building rather than milling around outside. It isn't hard to spot Akira and Hideaki leaning against the fence while talking to pass the time. A large black travel bag, completely with wheels and travel handle, leans against the fence alongside them. Hideaki's first to notice us, pointing us out to Akira, who gives an over-enthusiastic wave. Hey! Hey! I grab Lily's travel bag for her as we go to meet the two, earning a nod of appreciation. I've got all my stuff here. You got yours? Plane ticket as well? Don't worry, I have everything. You? Yep, all ready to go. Not without some problems along the way, might I add. The snide remark has his head roughly dragged around by the firmly clamped on hand. Yeah, I kinda forgot. It was in my trousers pocket. Trousers that I'd put in the wash. Oh no. Don't worry. Did you know you can print out tickets if you order online nowadays? It's really cool. Hideaki's pained expression says that this wasn't a solution found quickly. It could have been worse, I guess. We'd better start off then. Check-in should be ready by now. Yeah, you're right. There's a certain amount of wistfulness in both their voices, to say nothing of the people left behind, meeting their family again
after all these years would be big for them.
Lilly.
Hanako wraps Lily in a gentle hug to say goodbye. One which is warmly reciprocated. Lily and I share a brief hug afterwards, each of us saying our goodbyes. Beside us, Akira and Hideaki break off from a small hug and a word or two between them. It would probably look quite nice if not for the almost comical height difference between the two. Lily takes a hold of her sister's arm once all that needs to be said in farewells is said. The two walking past the huge glass doors.
Goodbye, Hisao, Hanako.
Oi, see ya. Don't do anything stupid, shorty. We wave at them until they disappear from sight. In the throng of people moving about inside. And then we're alone. Well, that's that. I turn to see Hideaki already beginning to walk off. I'll see ya. He throws his hand in the air in a manner I'd expect from Akira. In the end, it's just Hanako and me left standing outside. I rest my hand on her shoulder. She absentmindedly gazes towards the front doors of the building, as if she might catch a glimpse of either of the two before they disappear. Don't worry. The time will pass fast. She hesitates for a moment, but eventually nods. With the scorching heat of the summer beaming down on us, we make our way to the nearby bus stop. It's strange, really. Just when I'd begun to see Lily differently, she leaves on what almost feels like a pilgrimage to the past. In a way, though, that's just what I've been doing since coming to Yamako. As much as I may reflect on everything that has happened to me, I really am hardly unique. Everyone has their own their own circumstances and separate paths to where they are now. And yet I can't really work out how I should proceed. My life may have practically been reset. I still can't find anything that satisfactorily fills the hole I still feel in myself. Maybe Lily's leaving will be a good thing for me. Without her to lean on, I'll need to do more for myself. I'll have to be there for Hanako as well. It feels strange to have so much changing so quickly after my month in the hospital that seemed to exist so separately from reality. But that's all the more reason for me to keep focused. I can't let any opportunities slip out of my fingers in an attempt to rebuild my life. Another chapter done. Pleasant. I rest my chin on my hand as I absentmindedly look out the window. Yet another of Muto's lectures droning on as if they were endless. The summer sky is almost alluring in its bright cerulean splendor. Only the old passing cloud breaks up the blue expanse. This feeling of longing is probably the outdoor side of me yearning to escape. Nakai, could you answer this? That side of me is lost in the past now, Belle. In that case, I think I would use an ane suffix? Correct, moving on. The suffix for
As my attention towards Muto slips once again, I spot Misha giving me an enthusiastic thumbs up, and I nod to her at her to settle her down. It's been a handful of days since Lilly left for Scotland, days which have passed relatively peacefully. I've largely continued as usual, in contrast to what I'd expect. While thoughts of her have danced around on the edge of my mind since she left, present events managed to subdue them, at least for the time being. So I find myself idly chatting with Hanako, as usual, when lunchtime finally rolls by. Are the latter ones in the series good as well? Not really. You're probably best off just sticking to the original. His later books didn't live up to it. Other words, other than maybe God Emperor. Thanks. I wasn't really sure of it. As Hanko steps to the side, I see Shizune stride up in her typically businesslike manner, flanked by her ever-present bright-haired shadow. Try as I might, I can't read a hint of their intent from their faces. Shizune's poker face and Misha's seemingly boundless cheerfulness are a devilish combination. Morning, Shizune. Misha? Hi. I accentuate the greeting with a nod to Shizune in order to get the point across. She promptly and curtly returns the gesture to both of us. It's been a long while since I've actually really talked to either of them. For a while I thought they might be avoiding me, but I eventually came to the conclusion that Shizune really isn't the type to do so. Huh. Morning, Shichan. Shichan says that Muto wants to see you sometime. Because of this statement, my face contorts as I'd just eaten spoiled food, giving Misha no end of amusement. Anyone think you were in trouble, Hichan? Huh? You may not be aware of it, but you have the least to worry about out of anyone in the class. What an unexpected vote of confidence. Even Hanako nods hesitantly to affirm the point. Thanks, I'll keep that in mind. There was something I wanted to ask you, though. Huh? And what might that be, Hichan? I have a feeling this won't go over well, but here it goes. Is there any reason why you and Lilly don't get along? It seems like even a little civility would help you both in your duties. Shizune gives a cold stare after Misha happily signs the words. Word stops me in my tracks. In hindsight, I could have worded that better. Out of the corner of my eye, I'm sure I see Hanako move back just a little. Thankfully, Shizune notices this and lets her temper dissipate as she forcefully runs her hand through her hair to let off steam. Perfectly on cue, Misha begins interpreting the second Shizune's arm begin to move. Huh. I would say that such matters aren't relevant to you, but since you seem to have befriended Lilly... She pauses to adjust her glasses, evidently attempting to articulate her point in the best possible manner. Huh. While I assume the same of her, I cannot call my own views on the matter unbiased. Suffice to say, we were closer before than we are now. Shizune makes a quick gesture to Misha to stop her from interpreting. Then a quick meeting with her before proceeding. The fact that the two can communicate so easily yet so secretly in front of us is slightly disconcerting. Hanako seems to share my curiosity at the proceedings, looking on with a thinly masked interest. As she finishes their opaque conversation, Misha looks slightly deflated. I guess her opinion on the matter wasn't followed. Shichan says you should ask Lilly about it, as she doesn't want to be the one that gets you involved. Ah, well. I'll just have to ask her when she gets back. At least I got some information out of Shizune. The two of them having been on close terms means they weren't always like this at each other's throats. Or at least not quite to this extent. I understand. Thanks anyway. With a nod and farewell, the two break away and walk out of the door, no doubt headed straight for the student council room. Could have gone worse, I suppose. Hanako lets out a long breath, relieved at the confrontation solution. I can't say I blame her. I'll see you later then. Yeah, I'll meet you in the tea room. See ya. And with that, she waves and joins the trickle of students leaving the classroom.
Nakai, could I speak with you for a moment?
Delivered in his typical monotone manner, he apparently decided that I need a reminder to see him already. Eventually, I finish up packing my things. By the time I reach his desk, the classroom is close to empty. Yes, sir? He looks up, taking measure of my face before giving an awkward, rather obviously acted chuckle.
And no need to feel guilty, you're not in any trouble. I just want to ask you something. I have asked another few students so far.
That's something at least. For a moment I thought my maxim of keeping my head down and pen up had failed me. So what did you want to talk about?
To start with, what do you think of your progress in this class so far? Good? Bad?
I detest that kind of question. For a fair amount of time I try to think of a response that neither is pathetically humble nor cocky. I'd say I'm doing okay. The work doesn't seem to be too hard, and I'm doing better on the test than I thought I would.
Well, that's the good answer. A correct one, too.
I give a mental sigh of relief at his satisfaction. To say that I don't gain a little pride from his comment would be a blatant lie. In this maelstrom of thoughts clouding my mind after learning that I'd be transferring to Yamaku, my school grades seemed utterly unimportant. Being entirely clueless as to what skill level would be assumed of me once I actually got here, I was hugely relieved when I found out that I understood well enough the schoolwork we'd be doing.
I know your circumstances might have thrown you a wrench in the works, but have you given any thought about your future?
My future?
What would you like to do as a profession? Do you have any thought of where you'd like to be in 10 or 20 years' time? I wouldn't be surprised if you covered this ground in your previous school, but I don't have any record of it if you have.
I suppose the last year of high school is the time when students would need to be thinking about such things. To be honest, I really haven't lent much thought, compared to my immediate situation. Catching on to my thinking, Muto speaks up.
It's okay if you haven't decided on anything specifically yet.
I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of your classmates were still undecided after all. Maybe pursue one of your talents. He's rather obviously trying to squeeze the answer out of me, and something about his previous wording makes me suspicious. He didn't seem to intend on asking everybody like this, so he must have some kind of selection criteria. At a guess, our grades in his class. Well, something in science might be the path of least resistance. His face brightens, no doubt pleased at the thought of a prize student following his subject as a career path.
Good. Having a general idea is the first step. I would advise you to think on it, though.
I will. Things are kind of settling down, which will help.
Good to hear. Oh, I've noticed that Ikazawa's attendance and grades have improved since you came to be her friends. I'd like to thank you for that.
I'm surprised you noticed. We knew each other. He gives a chuckle as awkward as his smile. This guy really has no idea how to properly act around others.
Every facial movement seems like an act of careful but misdirected choreography. You could say that having a general idea of who knows whom is part of a teacher's job. Catching himself before he goes off on a tangent, he loudly coughs into his hand. I'm sure you have things to do, though, so I'll stop there. Please think about this where you're headed from in here, as you don't have how long before you finish high school. I will, thanks. The brief talk ended. I take my leave. He goes back to fussing with the teacher materials on his desk. This is one of the times I'm envious of Lilly, almost maddeningly so. To have one's future so clear and so assured, yet working towards it from such a young age. It's an idea so utterly inconceivable with my own thoughts. I have no idea what that word is. Mirrored in the present day, just as they've always been. Another day passed. That was quick. Dun, 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 dun. Walking through the lobby to the cafeteria, I silently rue my daily routine having completely been thrown off. It had seemed like a normal day. I arrived in class before most, due to waking early and having become quite adept at chucking down pills without choking as I get ready for the day. But the students trickled in. One never materialized. Hanako. I step inside, my eyes scanning the expanse of the cafeteria in search of the suitable place to take seat. It's a task made more difficult by the groups of students moving about and busily talking. A hand pounds my back a couple of times, severely winding me. I couldn't care less about the culprit as I focused thoughts on my chest in a near automatic reaction. My hand instinctively tightens on my breast. As I start going through the steps I rehearsed in my mind every other day. Breathe steadily. In. And out. With a measure of relief, I can slowly feel my chest becoming less tense. By the time I look back up, my face is covered in sweat from the experience. Hey man, are you okay? God damn it! Don't you do that, you idiot! He retreats back, an expression of unease written on his face. In hindsight, I probably shouldn't have barked at him, considering he had no way to know. I sigh and write myself with some difficulty. Sorry, I just have some chest problems. Sharp knocks aren't good. It seems strange to see him so upset. The fact that I can't do anything about it irritates me. Let's get lunch. Okay, it's good to have some company for once. We start off to the serving line. One good thing is that Kenji and I can make small talk nowadays, as opposed to my only interaction with him being anti-feminist lectures. Seems like it'd be hard to find an empty table. There's a few people I wouldn't mind sitting with. Nobody's like you, though. I feel a shiver run through my spine. Clarify that now. They don't listen. Their minds are closed. It's the media, man. The goddamn brainwashing mainstream feminist fascist media! Sorry, let me do that again. The goddamn brainwashing mainstream feminist fascist media! Oh no. He takes a breath, and I savor the seconds of silence. Damn, they control everything! Everything but you and me. I relax a little while I grab our food and drink. So what you got for me? Huh? Come on, you've been hanging around with Sato and that other chick for ages now. Rumors are all over my class, and probably some of the others too. Eavesdropping isn't a good habit. Let me guess. You never do it? Not even when you're bored? Really? Well, fine. Point taken. Both of us stop to have the soup ladled into a couple of small bowls and placed onto our trays. The concoction that lands in the bowl looks pretty questionable, but at least it smells reasonably good. As we take our seats at the miraculously free table, I try to think of something that would actually interest him at all. I hope I can come up with something with an acceptable topic. I found an answer to the question you asked a couple of weeks back, where Lilly's non-Japanese half comes from, that is. Good man, it's Russia, right? Totally Russia. Scotland. He visibly stopped in his tracks. Scotland? Yeah, that was my reaction too. She can speak English fluently and everything. Damn it, do you realize what this means? How terrifying is this news is to me? I think he's hyperventilating. Passing out out for a little while would probably make him more relaxed than he normally is. I don't know if this is something important. Humor him. I have no idea what it means. Enlighten me. I just lost 1,000 yen, man. 1,000 yen. Damn, this is the worst day ever. You're kidding me. You made a bet on about her nationality. One of the dudes in my class was bugging me about it. I gave him some of my wisdom, and he had the audacity to say my logic was wrong. So what did he think? Yeah, Germany or something. Doesn't matter. What matters is my 1,000 yen. Damn, this ruined my... This day is ruined thanks to her. What a bitch. He looks utterly devastated as he wolfs down several clumps of his soggy soy-soaked rice. It only takes a full mouthful before he pokes his chopstick at me, stabbing the air repeatedly in revelation. What? Did your mother never ever tell you not to speak with your mouth full? He gives me a dirty look before choking down the rest of his food, left in his mouth, and taking a gulp of juice. It's rather unsightly. Remembering my own food sitting in front of me, I decide to get to the task of eating the cafeteria food over and done with as fast as possible. The sooner I do so, the sooner the experience will be over. So as I was saying, why would anyone want to live in that place anyway? I mean, what is there to see? Grassy plains? That's it. Lots and lots of grassy plains. And men in kilts. I'm not sure which is worse, his food or his worldview. I can feel my face being dragged down by the combined weight. Not that he'd even notice or care. No, it's not that bad. Why do you care so much about that anyway? She's just your class representative, after all. He gives a malevolent chuckle. Well, were this anyone but Kenji, I'd feel uneasy at how he sounds. I finally found the chink in the Feminist Legion's armor. It took me a while, but I'm confident that this is going to be how we can bring down the whole system. I'm about to blow your mind. Are you ready? I tune out his rambling for a moment as I finish my rice and start on the unappetizing soup. One taste is enough to confirm that it's cold. Ready as I'll ever be. I confirmed that Lilly's in the Mafia. What? Alright, stay with me for a second here, and I'll describe the scene. I wish I could do otherwise. Lily's there, walking down the street after school. You're not stalking her, are you? No, damn man. I do have some sense of self-preservation. But not dignity, or morals, or social standards. Anyway, so as I was saying, this car pulls up next to her, and I guess
And guess who steps out? A man in a pinstripe suit. Waves her in, and the two leave just like that. I'll tell you, man, she's under protection. Under protection. A man in a... Oh, I can see where this is going. It takes an effort to not sigh in exasperation. Let me guess. This man was about average height, had slightly slender build, and had blonde hair, looked foreign, and smiled a lot. He looks positively stunned. I take advantage for the moment of quiet to quickly gulp a mouthful of cold soup. It seems you're more observant than I thought. Yes, I've chosen well. He giggles a little, and nods to himself, so dramatically that it looks comical. I can't tell whether this is intentional or not, and that fact makes me frown. This has important ramifications, you know. If she really is connecting to people like them, and we're smart about what we do with this information, we could turn this into our greatest weapon against the student council. Once he starts rambling into conspiracy territory, my use suddenly becomes much more important. Only half listening to his pontifications, my mind drifts to the matter of Lilly and her antipathy for Shizune. The past between them is steadily becoming more coherent, but I'm not even sure if I should be learning of the past this way. Indeed, even if I do work out what went on, it really doesn't seem like my business to go and interfere. Damn, not having Lilly around is making my thoughts wander. I'm noticeably more more bored and sullen without her company. And the same goes for Hanako. All we do during lunches anymore is eat and play chess. Come to think of it, I need to go check on Hanako after school too. Considering her much improved tendency, I'm guessing she's come down with something. Oh, Nakai! I stop as I'm about to leave the classroom, turning on the ball of my heel to meet Mutoo. He's holding out a couple of worksheets we'd worked on during the day with his long lanky arm. Would you mind giving these to Ikazawa? I'd normally ask one of the girls to do, but I assume you'll be checking in on her. For a moment I briefly considered the possibility of that being more than an innocent prediction. I quickly discard the idea, though, as it is hard to think of him as anything such Machiavellian. Machiavellian. No idea what that word means. It's not in his nature. Sure, no problem. Walking up to the hallway of the girls' dormitory, several ideas on why Hanako's been absent float around my head. The most obvious of them is just simply a cold. That said, she may not even be sick at all. It's been almost a week since Lilly left, and despite her at least appearing to be normal, I've suspected she's somewhat more insecure about it than she's letting on. Eventually, I come to Hanako's dormitory room. It's a simple brown door separating us. The room's position next to Lily's is extremely convenient, and probably a large contributor to their meeting in the first place. Grimacing slightly at the prospect of her being sick, I rub my knuckles on the door. Silence. I listen intently for any sound of shuffling coming from the inside, but I can't hear a thing. I knock on the door again, slightly harder. Still no answer. How strange. A door opens from behind me. A freckled and somewhat scrawny underclassman I don't recognize comes out and is briefly taken off guard by my presence. Hi? Actually, this may be rather fortuitous meeting. Hey, excuse me. Do you know if Hanako's come out of her room today or not?
She doesn't seem to be answering. Ikasawa Izakawa? Ikasawa? Her not answering the door is totally normal. That tall foreign girl is the only person she'll ever talk to, after all. She gives a shrug before walking off down the hallway, having much more important matters to attend to than me or Hanako. Her dismissive attitude annoys me. Hanako must have a reputation as a hermit, a reputation that doesn't seem outright undeserved, at least in the time before we'd met. Scratching my head, I make one last attempt at getting Hanako to enter as I knock the door one final time. Hanako, it's just me. Uto said to give you some stuff. For a while, the attempt seems just as unsuccessful as the last. Just before I slip the sheets under the door, though, I can hear the handle rattle. As the door opens halfway, I do my best to look Hanako over as quickly as possible. Is the task made somewhat more difficult by her oversized gown, hiding so much of her body? She doesn't look sick, or at least not immediately so. To be honest, I'd have preferred that to her expression right now. Hi Hanako, Uta wanted me to give you these, since you weren't in class today. I hold out the loosened sheets, which she tentatively takes in her hands. The way she moves is weird, devoid of thought, as if she's some kind of mechanical automaton, rather than a living being. Are you okay? If you're feeling sick or anything, I could get the nurse. I feel almost pitiful to put on such a routine, get well soon act. I can't think of anything else I could possibly do for her, though. She seems to collect herself a little at the notion, but only a little. I'm fine. Okay. An awkward silence follows. Eventually she ended up by her nodding solemnly in farewell and closing the door. The entire experience feels surreal. More than a little put off, I wander back to my room and hope that she'll be better by tomorrow, despite not knowing exactly what's wrong with her. These days are a lot faster. Oh. Yeah. Once again, I find myself in front of Hanako's door after another of her unexplained absences for class. Tuck, tuck, tuck. Nothing. Considering this is the second day in a row she's been like this, I'm starting to worry about her. Summoning my willpower, I decide to try one last way to get her to respond. Hanako, if you don't say anything, I'll get the nurse for you. Go away! What? It's hard to tell whether her tone is one of depression, anger, or both. What in the world can I actually do to help her if she doesn't even want help? The message is clear enough. I can't just leave her like this, though. Just sitting in her room for days on end. Rubbing my temples in thought, I withdraw to my room to think about how to proceed. Rationality is what's needed here, as an overreaction may just make things worse. I dig around in the drawer after drawer, looking for where I put that damned piece of paper. Before she left, Lilly told me the number to call her on while in Scotland. I wrote it down. Now that I need it, though, the damn thing is... here. I probably should have just entered it directly into my cell phone, come to think of it. Without further ado, I enter the numbers and anxiously press the call button. In fact, the phone rings at all shows that I got the prefix for the call to Scotland right, at least. See, I've never made an international call before, so that's some comfort. Eventually, the phone picks up. A feminine voice I don't recognize from the other end. It's probably Lily's mother. What is at all? English? Suddenly finding myself unprepared, I realize I can't understand a word she says, either due to my limited vocabulary or her heavy accent. I should have anticipated this, since, according to Lily, her mother is a native Scot. I soldier on in hope that she must know some Japanese, considering it's her daughter's native language. It's Hisao Nakai speaking. An enthusiastic sound of realization can be heard as she recognizes the language. My feeling of relief is immense. Ah, you must be one of Lily's friends from school, correct? Even so, her accent means I have to concentrate to work out what she's saying. Yes, right. Pleased to speak to you, Miss Sato. It's so nice of her to find someone so polite. Dear Lily, it's for you. Her mother seems nice, a little over-enthusiastic given the mundane situation. And there's a small silence as Lily takes her time getting on the phone. In the distance I can just make out her mother scolding her playfully for just getting up. Hello, Lily speaking. Ugh, you sound awful. She makes a sound somewhere between a dying animal and a yawn. One thing I did remember to check before calling was the time zone. I'd be pretty late in the morning over there, so she really has no excuse. Not feeling well? I'm just tired. What time is it there? Late afternoon. School finished for the day not long ago. You're really not a morning person, are you? I don't need you making fun of me as well. It takes me a measure of restraint not to laugh at her pain groan. Poor girl. How are you doing over there then? Bar the mornings? It's been enjoyable. After not meeting them for so long, just having a meal together with my parents is nice. Though the pool and the sheer size of the house might have something to do with that as well. Even if they're not in Japan, from the way it sounds, her family must be pretty wealthy to live so luxuriously. Are things, well, alright with you and Hanako? Damn, I was hoping that it wouldn't be brought up so quickly. I take a moment to try and sort out exactly how to describe the situation without causing her undue worry, but she picks up on that without a word being said. Hanako's not well, is she? How did you know? Because today is her birthday. I'd hoped she might have gotten at least a little better after coming to know you, but... How is she right now? She missed school yesterday and seemed out of sorts when I checked up on her. Today she missed school again, and she just told me to go away. I've really got no idea what to make of it. Has this happened in the past? Is it related to her scarring in some way? Unfortunately so. Roughly the same thing happened last year when her birthday came up. As far as I can tell, it's because her parents died in the accident that caused her scarring, and Hanako blames herself for their deaths. What she says does seem to make sense. If she's blaming herself on her birthday, she may as well be ruining the day she was ever born. The fact that Lily seems so in the dark about it, though, almost to the extent that I am, is a surprise. So that's why she lives in the student dormitories as well. Has she told you any more about the accident? As close as we've come, she's barely told me anything about what happened. What I know about it is largely conjecture. She sounds desperate. She sounds depressed, almost defeated. Considering the trauma Hanako must have gone through, I can't really fault Lily for not knowing. Nevertheless, this seems to consider it a personal failing. Don't blame yourself, Lily, with everything she's gone through. I know. Thank you, Isao. I'm sorry I can't be of more help to you. It's fine, I'll just give some more thought. Thanks, have a good time in Scotland. It's nothing. Thank you for taking care of Hanako.
Okay, bye. Goodbye. And with that, the line goes silent. Amid the seemingly only increased number of questions I can't answer, the most immediate is what Lily was going to say. Oh no! I'm an idiot. She must have thought I was calling to talk to her, but I only asked to help with Hanako. Even more shameful than I thought, the fact that such an appraisal would be largely correct. Well, first things first. For now, I need to at least sort out Hanako and make sure she's actually eating okay. The occasional passing students give a badly hidden glances at the plate of food I carry to the female dormitories. It's hardly a meal to be proud of, only being an instant microwave meal from the convenience store, but it should at least fill her up. Eventually, I arrive outside of her room, after having to ward off a couple of girls who jokingly tried to pilfer the food I'd taken so long to procure. I decided to forgo knocking since it was proven to be utterly useless measure and is somewhat difficult to do with my hands full. Hanako, it's Isao. I know you're listening. I only got some food for you. Silence, as expected. I'll leave it here beside your door. Please eat it at least, okay? There, I've said my piece. Now it's up to her. Putting the plate down, I walk back to my own room to eat my dinner. By the time I return to Hanako's dormitory, a good hour's passed. Thankfully, there isn't anything to be seen besides her door. I walk back at least somewhat happier that she's eating. She intends to get through this by herself, then being able to help, even if it's just such a small way, is at least something. Bum, 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 bum. Hmm. Oh, sorry. I think I'm gonna end it there. My throat is kind of scuffed. It's already been 2 hours, and this is a good point to stop. Uh-huh. So let's do that. There we go. Yes, but that's where I'm gonna leave it off for today. So thank you all for watching. I hope you had an amazing time, as always. And as always, have a good night, sleep well, and I'll see you all tomorrow for some Yakuza. That's what it was. Yes. Have a good night. Bye bye.